We have received our first third-party book on D&D Beyond of the year, and it is exploring Eberron, which is exciting for a huge variety of reasons. First of all, it comes from Keith Baker, who is literally the creator of Eberron. Secondly, it's one from a new publisher on D&D Beyond, from Visionary, which is very cool. And thirdly, it is our first ever third-party book on D&D Beyond that has Artificer subclasses. How exciting. I thought it would be, as I so often do, a good idea. No, none of that makes sense. I thought it'd be wise to look through them all of this new stuff, as I so often do. So, I hope you're ready, grab a drink, settle in, and we're going to go through the subclasses, the player options in general, and take a look at the book overall as well, and see whether or not it's worth your money. Unsurprisingly, my answer is probably going to be yes. I think this is a pretty solid book. I went over it last night, as I have started to do, to try to avoid live flummoxing over my words. Flummoxing is not the right word. The irony. Anyway, this is a book with 8 chapters, as you can see. Only one of these really is character options, which is the character options section. You've also got treasures, which we'll go over second, and then there is a preposterous amount of lore in here, which is fantastic if that's what you're looking to do. Obviously a very, very good thing for players who love going through the lore, but also, and probably more importantly, that bit's really good for the DMs who want to run a campaign in Eberron, because it goes into a lot of detail about the setting, which is fantastic. As is so often the case, we have some fantastic artwork here. I adore it. I really like the mask on the goblin especially. We kick things off with, rather interestingly, alternate versions of capstones. These are different level 20 capstones that you can give to each subclass, basically. I adore this, absolutely adore this. I also don't think it's that broken to just give them both, but that's a me thing. We've got them in alphabetical order, so we're going to go through all of the current ones and then the new ones, because the Artificer subclasses are ABC loaded for some reason. So for the Alchemist, the upgraded version is Perfected Elixirs. This lets you create a Panacea and a Vivacity elixir on a long rest, as you would with the rest of your elixirs. The Panacea is the drinker is restored to full health, and all conditions affecting them are ended. If the drinker has died within the last hour, they instead revive with 1 hit point. The elixir can't revive a creature that's died of old age, nor does it restore any missing body parts. It is a Panacea, very much in name, so that's solid. And then Vivacity grants the benefits of your resilience, boldness, and flight elixirs for 8 hours. When gained in this way, the flight elixir grants a fly speed of 50 feet, which is very cool. The Armourer, I think, has my favourite one. Maybe second favourite? You'll see. The Armourer gets overcharged. This lets you fire a beam from your armour that is 100 feet long and 15 foot wide. The creatures in that line have to make a dex save, or they take 30d6 damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. The damage type is dictated by the model of armor you're in. So your Dreadnought gets force damage, Guardian deals thunder, and Infiltrator deals lightning, which is a nice touch. Hard to argue with 30d6, even if it is only once per long rest. The Artillerist gets the infused cannon. This lets you use a magic action once per long rest in order to grant one or both of your cannons a unique upgraded version of the effects that they have. You can restore this using a level 5 spell. The upgraded flame is Dragon Flame, which is a 60-foot cone instead of the usual 15-feet one. Dex save will take 5d8 fire, or half as much, obviously. And anything in the cone that isn't being worn starts burning, basically. I said basically twice there. Horrible. Barrage. The cannon lobs a ball of concentrated energy at a point of your choosing within 120 feet of it. Each creature in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point makes a con save, taking 5d8 force damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Any non-magical object that isn't being worn or carried also takes the damage, which is cool, and it ignores the damage thresholds of objects, so you can potentially break through things you might not be able to otherwise. And Restoration, each creature within a 10-foot range of the cannon regains 25 hit points and is cured of the blind, deaf, paralyzed, and poisoned conditions. So being able to choose different ones of these, which is what you can do with this, is very strong. It feels very fitting, obviously. The Battlesmith gets Steel Vanguard as a magic action, and with Smith tools in hand, you can infuse your Steel Defender with arcane energy, granting it the following benefits for a minute. The Steel Defender gains the multi-attack action, allowing it to make 4 force-empowered rend attacks. That's very good. Your Steel Defender gains a fly speed equal to its speed. It gains 50 temp health, and using Arcane Jolt does not expend uses. You can only do this once per long rest, or if you spend a level 5 spell slot to restore it. Cartographer gets Travel Everywhere. Your cartographer, if you are one of the map holders for your Adventurous Atlas, you can cast Gate without a material component. You can also cast it once without a spell slot. You gain the ability to cast it when you finish a long rest. When cast in this way, the duration extends to 10 minutes, and damage can't cause you to lose concentration. You can Choose to link the portal to a precise location on the same plane of existence or a different plane of existence. So you can go anywhere, basically. It's very fitting. We then have the new 2 subclasses, Forge Adept, which is about, I think it's what most people wanted the Battlesmith to be, which is like a more weapons-focused Artificer. And then the Maverick is a jack-of-all-trades Artificer, spell-wise. So the Forge Adept, you get to activate something called your Aura of War, which we'll go over in a minute, but basically it adds damage to your weapon attacks and any weapon attacks of your allies within range. I think it's 30 feet. Along with that, when an enemy starts its turn in your Aura of War, it takes damage equal to the extra damage provided by the aura, which is normally 1d6 at this point, but can be 2d6 if you use a bonus action to empower it, which lasts for a minute. Very cool. And you get a number of uses of that equal to your intelligence modifier. And then for the Maverick, and this is probably the strongest one, you can take a magic action to cast any spell of level 8 or lower. This takes the place of the usual casting time of the spell. You don't need to make any requirements to cast a spell, including costly components. The spell simply takes effect. This is nuts. People will probably say that's broken, but I would posit that it's at level 20, and you've been at half cast all the way up to level 20, and that is not an easy thing to do, so it's probably fine. Let's go over the subclasses, shall we? So first up is the Forge Adept. I'm going to skip the lore here purely because I'm getting over a cold and I don't feel very well. Please applaud, maybe? I don't know. Level 3, you get tool proficiency. You gain proficiency with smith tools. If you already have that, if you already have proficiency with those, you can get proficiency with another type of tools. And when you craft an ordinary or magic weapon, in addition, when you craft an ordinary or magic weapon, you only need half as much time to craft it. You also get your Forge Adept spells. Armor of Agathis, Shield of Faith, Spiritual Weapon, Warding Bond. I love Spiritual Weapon on an Artificer. That's really cool. Warding Bond, Beacon of Hope, Remove Curse, Death Ward, Fire Shield, Banishing Smite, and Wall of Force. Level 3, you get Battle Ready as well. When you attack with a magic weapon, you can use your intelligence modifier instead of your strength or dexterity for the attack and damage rolls, and you gain proficiency with all martial weapons. You can use a weapon with which you have proficiency as your spellcasting focus as well. You also get Gal Sharat. That's a made-up word. I'm still hoping I pronounced it correctly, but we'll see. Basically, you can... Not basically, I'll just read it. You can imbue a weapon with a fraction of your spirit, creating what the Dakani call a Gal Sharat, Goblin for Mighty Blade. As a magic action, while you have the smith's tools in hands, you can turn a simple or martial melee weapon into a Gal Sharat. The weapon continues to be a Gal Sharat until you imbue a different weapon or you die. While you're wielding it, the weapon gains these benefits. It gets a +1 to attack and damage rolls, unless it already had a better one, and the weapon has the thrown property with a normal range of 30 feet and a long range of 120 feet. It returns to your hand immediately after it's used to make a ranged attack roll. In essence, this allows you to free up one of your Artificer plans. Instead of making a +1 weapon, which most Artificers will want to do, you can do something else instead, which is cool. Probably +1 shield and +1 something else. Along with that, the thrown weapon part is interesting because theoretically that allows you to throw a greatsword, which you are proficient with. So you can use a +1 greatsword as a throwing weapon, and that is kind of sick, if we're being honest. It's solid. It fits the feel of an aggressive, like I said, it fits the feel of a more weapon focused Artificer, I think, a little bit better. Level 5, you get extra attack. Nothing special about that, just flat out extra attack, that's fine. Level 9 is where things get really fun. You get Runes of War, which gives you a +2 to your attack and damage rolls with your Gal Sharat. Along with that, it gives you the Aura of War ability we spoke about earlier, which as a magic action, you begin to radiate a bolstering aura in a 30-foot emanation that originates from you. You choose Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder, and while in the aura, you and your allies deal an extra d4 of the damage type when hitting with a weapon or unarmed strike. The aura lasts for a minute. It lasts for a minute until you use the feature again or until you end it. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, a minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is super cool, ultimately. That's pretty powerful, especially if a lot of your allies are making weapon attacks. It doesn't boost spell attacks, which is probably for the best, but it's a good buff nevertheless, and it encourages you to be kind of in the thick of it. And then at level 15, you get Perfect Weapon. You get a +3 bonus to your attack and damage rolls with your Gal Sharat. Additionally, the first time you attack, you can transfer some or all of the weapons bonus to your armor class, so you can swap some of that +3 to your AC to make yourself harder to hit. It's like the Defender Greatsword. That's fun. Elemental Strike. When you hit a creature with the attack roll using your Gal Sharat, you choose one of the following damage types, as it's the same damage types as before. Your Gal Sharat deals an extra 1d6 of the chosen type and can cause the weapon to deal the chosen type of damage or its normal damage types. There's a bunch of... This is a very minor thing. There's a bunch of points at which there's words without a space in between them. It's very irritating. You also get resistance to psychic damage and have immunity to both charmed and frightened conditions. So that's super fun. I really like that subclass. It is, I think, what a lot of people kind of want from the Battlesmith, in that it's that, like I said, it's a very weapon-focused, fighting-focused artificer. I like it a lot. Then we have the Maverick. Now, the Maverick is fascinating. You get Tinker's Tools when you craft a magic item, halved. I'm not going over all the specific wording again. Maverick spells. You learn one cantrip of your choice from the Artificer, Cleric, or Wizard spell list. Chosen cantrip counts as an Artificer spell for you, and your intelligence is your spellcasting ability. In addition, anytime you prepare Artificer spells, you can prepare an additional number of spells equal to your proficiency bonus. These spells can come from the Artificer, Cleric, or Wizard spell lists, and the chosen spells count as Artificer spells for you, which is super cool. You also get Arcane Prototype. This has a lot of words. I am going to make this easier based on this table, because that is what is relevant. When you imbue a prototype with a spell, it acts like a spell scroll. It does not consume any components. You don't need components for it, so you can put Revivify in it, for example. At each level, you get a number of maximum prototypes, and the arcane charges you get here is each arcane charge is worth 1 level of a spell. So if you use 2, you can put a second level spell in there. So at level 3, you can have a level 1 spell in there. That's nice and easy. At level 2, you can have a level 2 spell in there, and a level 1 spell, because you've got 3 charges, and then you've got 2 prototypes. At level 9, I said 5 last time, right? I should have said 5. At level 9, you get 3 prototypes, you can have a maximum level of 3, and you have 5 arcane charges. So you could do 2 level 2 spells and 1 level 1 spell, 1 level 3 spell, 1 level 2 spell, any combination of those, and so on. This is a really fascinating feature which helps give you free spell slots, basically, which is something that halfcasters don't always want this. But the Artificer is viewed as being or I think the intent is that it is the spellcasting halfcaster, and that's a rough place to be, frankly. I know you get the magic items, and that helps, because you get wands and stuff, but that's not till a little bit later on. This helps a lot. And the flexibility of being able to choose from different spell lists makes this a very interesting subclass. At level 5, if you've got Tinker's Tools in your possession and you cast an Artificer spell, you can add your intelligence modifier to 1 damage roll of the spell, which is great. Level 9, when you finish a short rest, you can replace one of your prepared spells with a new spell from the lists that you have access to, which is cool. And then at level 15, when you finish a short rest, you can swap a spell contained in your prototype for another spell of the same level. In addition, you ignore all class, species, spell, and level requirements on attuning to or using a magic item. The Maverick is fascinating. I think it's probably the one that is easiest to break theoretically, if that's what you're looking to do, but it's also just a really cool concept. What I will say is that at the time of recording this, while these subclasses are technically available on D&D Beyond, they are not implemented very well. The Forge Adept is currently showing up with, I believe, the Battlesmith's spell list, which is not great. And the Maverick is a mess. You cannot prepare the extra spells. It would have to be something that you homebrewed at the moment. I'm really hoping they fix that, because this is the first release of 2026, and this is a big deal because it is Artificer stuff, right? So I'm really hoping that they fix this, please. Weirdly, the prototype thing does seem to be working. So that does actually seem to be working for some reason. I don't really understand why. It just gives you all of your options straight away. My hope is all of this gets sorted in the coming weeks, or hopefully in the coming days. But it's worth noting, if you're watching this on Thursday, so there's 2 days after it came out, at the time of recording, which was Wednesday, it's not currently working properly. Next up, we have the College of the Dirge Singer. This is a Bard Commander, which is really, really interesting. At level 3, you get Broad Inspiration. You gain the Guidance cantrip, and you can cast it with a range of 60 feet, which is super cool. Oh no, you can't. Broad Inspiration gives you the Guidance cantrip, which is cool. It counts as a bard spell. Doesn't count against your normal number of cantrips. The cantrip does not count against your normal number of cantrips. And when you confer a Bardic Inspiration die to a creature, you can also confer that Bardic Inspiration die to a second creature within range. That means you're getting 2 for 1, basically. You are the Bardic Inspirer. You also get proficiency in History and Performance, or if you already have proficiencies, you gain Expertise. So if you know you're taking this, please take proficiency in History and Performance, because expertise is great. At level 6, you get Commanding Voice. You excel at inspiring and directing soldiers in battle. When you take the attack or magic action on your turn, 2 creatures of your choice who possess one of your Bardic Inspiration die can expend it to use their reaction to immediately make one attack with a weapon or unarmed strike, adding the bardic inspiration die to the attack's damage roll on a hit. That's fantastic. It's really strong at level 6 to be able to get 2 of your friends to attack alongside you, basically. And then at level 14, you unflaggingly maintain the spirit and discipline of your unit. As a bonus action, you can start a battle hymn which can be heard by all creatures within 60 feet. The hymn lasts until your next turn. While the hymn is active, whenever an ally within 30 feet of you who can hear you makes an ability check or saving throw, they can add 1d4 to the ability check or save. It's a little weird that this is not something you have to concentrate on, which is good, I think, because it's not strong enough to really deserve concentration. It is interesting. It's a little weird that it only inspires people within 30 feet of you, even though it can be heard 60 feet away. But other than that, I really like it. I love the concept of the subclass a lot. That kind of backline commander strategist role is a really fascinating one, and I think giving it to bards is just incredibly cool. We have the Mind Domain Cleric. This is a psychic themed cleric, which is very novel. You get spells, obviously. Command, Detect Thoughts, Dissonant Whispers, Mind Spike at level 3. Level 5 is Clairvoyance and Fear. Level 7 is Confusion and Phantasmal Killer. Level 9 is Synaptic Static and Telekinesis. And then at level 17 you get Banishing Smite and Wall of Force. I don't think that's correct. Those are level 5 spells. I think that's meant to be level 11. One day we'll get a release on D&D Beyond that doesn't have these silly little errors in. One day. Also at level 3, when a creature you can see within 30 feet of you succeeds on a wisdom saving throw, you can take a reaction and expend a use of your channel divinity to impose disadvantage on the saving throw, potentially making them fail, which is fun. At level 3, you also get Psychic Force. You learn to buffet your foes with mental power. When you cast a spell that deals radiant damage, you can have it inflict psychic damage instead. When you cast a spell that deals psychic damage, you can add your charisma modifier to the spell's damage against one of the spell's targets. I don't know if that's meant to be wisdom or not. It's possible it is. I just don't know. I guess it's fine either way. You can put some charisma into that, but it is a little weird that it wouldn't be wisdom. Level 6, you get Gestalt Anchor. Your mental power increases, allowing you to project a sense of calm in a 10-foot emanation that originates from you. The projection is inactive if you have the incapacitated condition. You and your allies gain a +2 bonus to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. If another Mind Domain Cleric is present, a creature can only benefit from one Gestalt Anchor at a time, so you can't stack these. It's a bit like a mini Paladin aura, which is cool. And then at level 17, when an ally you can see within 30 feet of yourself fails a saving throw, you can replace the roll with a 20, potentially changing the outcome. You would hope so if it's a nat 20. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. I think the Mind Domain Cleric is incredibly fascinating. I don't necessarily think it's that powerful. It is interesting, and honestly a lot of my thoughts on it would be based on whether or not this is meant to be charisma. If it is meant to be charisma, that changes the way you build a class substantially, and it does make it a little trickier to manage. If it is meant to be wisdom, then it's a lot easier to justify, obviously. But then I guess you could stack your empowered cantrips you get later on as a cleric, right? If I remember correctly. Druid, you get Circle of the Forged, which has a Metal Velociraptor, hard to argue with. Level 3, you get Skin of Steel. You get the maximum challenge rating for a form that you wild shape into is your druid level divided by 3, rounded down. That is the Moon Druid style of wild shaping, so this is a wild shaping subclass. It's nice to have that as a shorthand. Your AC while in that form is 15 plus your wisdom modifier, if that total is higher than the beast's AC, which it normally is going to be. You gain resistance to poison damage. You also have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition. You no longer gain exhaustion levels from dehydration, malnutrition, or suffocation, and you don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep in this form. And also, while in wild-shaped form, your body is made from the same materials as Warforged. Your muscles are root-like tendrils, and they're protected by armoured plates. It's obvious to an observer you are not a normal animal. And the art there. I mean, this is just a long list of cool stuff, right? Who doesn't want to be a Transformer, basically? Everybody wants to be a Transformer. This is cool for Warforged in general, but this is also cool for non-Warforged, because how does that work? Who knows? Magic, obviously. But yeah, good stuff. You also get your spells, which are Blade Ward, Identify, and Mirror Image, Haste, Fire Shield, and Animate Objects. Nice and simple. Level 6, you get Elementally Imbued. While in Wild Shape form, you gain the following benefits. Each of your attacks in Wild Shape can deal its normal damage type, or Acid, Cold, Fire, or Lightning. You make that choice each time you hit with those attacks, which makes it a lot easier to exploit weaknesses, if there are any. Along with that, you get Elemental Cascade. Choose one of the following damage types, Acid, Cold, Fire, or Lightning. Once per turn when you hit, with a wild-shaped form attacks, you can expend a spell slot, no action required, to deal extra damage of the chosen type equal to 1d6 per level of the spell slot, up to a maximum of 5d6. The target must make a con save against your spell save DC. On a failed save, they also get an additional effect for a minute, which they get to repeat that save at the end of each of their turns. If you did acid, they get a penalty to your AC equal to half your wisdom modifier. If you did cold, the speed goes to 0. They get disadvantage on strength and dex checks. Fire, they take fire damage equal to your wisdom modifier. And lightning, they can't make opportunity attacks, and the first attack it makes on each of its turns has disadvantage. I think this is an incredibly cool way to use spell slots, and to do that while in wild shape form. I like it a lot. I like the additional benefits. You're not just doing damage, you're buffing as well, which is great. So yeah, I am a big fan of this as a concept. At level 10, you get Adamantine Hide. While in wild shape form, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. In addition, when you are hit by an attack roll or forced to make a saving throw, you can take a reaction expender use of wild shape to shapeshift into one of your wild shape forms. I love the idea of being hit and then suddenly you are giant scorpion. It's just very cool. And at level 14, you get Construction Perfection. Until you leave your wild shape form, your AC is 16 plus your wisdom modifier. The one bump there for 11 levels later is a little low. I honestly think that could be like 17, maybe 18. And Iron Mind, you get immunity to Charmed, Frightened, Paralyzed, Petrified, or Poisoned. And poison damage. So good stuff. That's a super fun subclass. I love the Circle of the Moon Druid. It is a lot of fun. I also prefer both this and the Circle of the... Is it the Circle of the Experiment? Circle of Mutation? The Grim Hollow one that is also Circle of the Moon coded, but lets you use your spell slots for things other than spells. They're just fun. I like this subclass a lot. And finally, for our subclasses, we have the Monk, the Warrior of the Living Weapon. At level 3, you get Martial Form. At the start of your turn, you can expend 1 focus point to manifest your martial form. The form lasts for 10 minutes until you use this feature again, or you have the incapacitated condition. Choose one of the following options when you adopt the form. You get Forged Heart. When you hit an object with an unarmed strike, the hit is a critical hit. In addition, when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike granted by Flurry of Blows, the target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed up to 15 feet directly away from you. You don't get to choose whether or not they have to make that save, and it's pushed up to... I don't know if that means that you get to choose how far they're pushed, so you could theoretically not push them. That would make the most sense. Otherwise, you can't always Flurry of Blows the same target, which would be irritating. Nightmare Shroud. When you use deflect attacks, the attacking creature must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature has the frightened condition until the end of its next turn. Traveler's Blade gives you an extra 10 feet of reach. And where touched, when you reduce an enemy within 5 feet of you to 0 hit points, you gain temp health equal to 1 roll of your martial arts die plus your monk level. All fun. Also, you get Mutable Strike. You have the power to alter your natural weapons, growing claws, or reinforcing your fists. Whenever you deal damage with your unarmed strike, it can be bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. That's just fun. I just like that as a concept. Level 6, you get Manifest Blow, which lets you choose one of the following options. Forged Heart. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can deal extra damage of the same type equal to your martial arts die, which is good. Nightmare Shroud is a magic action. You can expend 2 focus points to cause psychic energy to erupt from you. When you do so, each creature of your choice within a 30-foot emanation originating from you must succeed in a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes psychic damage equal to 3 rolls of your martial arts dice, and has the frightened condition until the end of your next turn. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage. That's solid, especially because you can choose which creatures actually take that, so that's always good. Traveler's Blade. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can use both the damage and the grapple option. You are always considered to have a free hand when determining whether you can grapple another creature. That is novel. I guess technically you can grapple as many creatures as you want at that point. Where touched is when you hit the same creature twice on your turn with unarmed strike, you can expend up to 3 focus points to deal extra damage on your second hit. Damage equals a number of rolls of your martial arts die equal to the number of focus points expended, and is the same type as your triggering unarmed strike. You get smites, but for monks. Pretty cool. Dealing 4 times the usual damage on a hit is pretty cool, especially if you do crit on that second hit. It goes well with the grappler feat. This does say choose one, so you gain one of the following options of your choice. It doesn't say that you get the same one as your manifested form, which would make more sense to me, so this would be more flexible, but what do I know? Level 11, Reflexive Adaptation. When you use self-restoration, the following conditions are added to the list of conditions you can move: blinded, deafened, and grappled. In addition, when you finish a short rest, you can move all levels of exhaustion from yourself. That's fun. Perfect Form. When you assume your martial art form, When you assume your martial form, you can expend an additional 3 focus points to gain the benefit for as long as you remain in the form. You can expend an additional 3 focus points to gain the following benefits for as long as you're in the form. Whenever you attack with an unarmed strike granted by flurry of blows, you have advantage, which is nice. At the start of your turn, roll 1 martial arts die and you regain that many hit points, which is also nice, and you get a +2 to your AC. Also very cool. It then has a bunch of lore about it all. It's saying that you can mix and match abilities, which would make the level 6 feature make a bit more sense. It also describes about how it's kind of assuming you're a changeling for a lot of this stuff, because you can change the way that you look and the way that your body moves, but there's not a guarantee. You just need to figure out flavor-wise why it is you can change your form like this. It's just cool. Backgrounds. We get some backgrounds. I'm not going over the backgrounds. We get new species options. We get 2 variants to the Aasimar. The Aasimar replaces Celestial Resistance and Light Bearer traits of the standard Aasimar, and replaces it with resistance to fire damage and necrotic damage, which is pretty strong, and gives you the Produce Flame cantrip, which uses your int, wisdom, or charisma. And then the Maverick Aasimar replaces your Light Bearer trait and your Inner Radiance trait. You get Herald of Death, which is the Toll the Dead cantrip. Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability. Toll the Dead is such a good cantrip, so it's a solid addition. And then Inner Darkness, you consume light and life, creating a shroud of shadows. For the duration, you reduce bright light in a 20-foot radius to dim light, and at the end of each of your turns, each creature within 10 feet of you takes necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. That's just fun. We have the Dakani Gal, which is a hobgoblin. These are humanoids, 30 feet speed. You get dark vision up to 60 feet. Advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charm condition. If you fail a d20 test, you can gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, up to a maximum of 5. You can only do that once per short or long rest. That's incredibly cool. And you get proficiency in athletics, history, intimidation, or performance. The Kani Golindar is the goblin, small dudes. These are all humanoid, which is interesting, right? So these versions are humanoid, whereas the goblin in D&D now is Fey. Am I remembering that correctly? Do we have a goblin as the basic species? No, I don't think so. Anyway, dark vision, 60 feet, advantage and charmed stuff. You can take the hide action even when you're obscured only by a creature that is at least 1 size larger than you, and you can move through the space of any creature that is 1 size larger than you, but you can't stop in the same space. They do have a 35 feet walking speed though, which is nice. And then the Dakani Guldar, which is the bugbear. It says it's small, and then it says 6 to 8 feet. That's obviously meant to be medium. 30 feet of movement. You get dark vision, advantage on frightened. When you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal. That's only on your turn, so it doesn't affect opportunity attacks, which is fine. You also get advantage on any ability check you make to end the grappled condition, and count as 1 size larger when determining your carrying capacity. And when an ally within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw to avoid or end the frightened condition, you can use your reaction to allow them to reroll the saving throw, which is cool. You've got gnolls or humanoid, about 7 to 8 feet tall, terrifying, 30 feet of speed. There we go. Dark vision of 60. Bite. Your teeth are natural weapons, which you can use to make unarmed strikes. If you hit with them, you deal piercing damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength mod in place of the normal bludgeoning damage of your unarmed strike. You get proficiency in perception, stealth, or survival. When you use your bite or reduce a creature to 0 hit points with an attack, you can use your bonus action to move up to half your speed and make 1 attack with a weapon or unarmed strike using your bite. That's really strong. The ability to run around. If you know a creature doesn't have much health left, you can just hit them with a normal hit. But if you're not 100% sure you're going to finish them off, you can bite them and then move, which is sick. The movement doesn't say it doesn't provoke opportunity attacks though, which is worth noting. We've got the Jorgenthal, which is half orc. This is going to be a lot of people's new favorite, I think. A medium creature, 30 feet speed, dark vision with a range of 60 feet. You get Relentless Endurance. When you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can drop to 1 hit point instead. You can do this once per long rest. And you get an origin feat of your choice. This is What If Human, but not Heroic Inspiration, but Dark Vision, and also Relentless Endurance. So from a combat standpoint, that's very strong. Yeah, this just seems incredibly strong, so I expect to see those a lot. You get Kalamar Landwalker, which is a merfolk. This one's really perplexingly written. You're an elemental, which is fun. You get a speed of 10 feet and a swim speed of 40 feet, but you can switch between your natural merfolk form, or your speed goes up by 20, but your swim speed is reduced to 0, but also you have a swim speed equal to your speed. You also get proficiency in nature, performance, or survival, and you can breathe both air and water and have dark vision. So that's an interesting one. Ruin Bound is really cool. These are creatures with an alien symbiote, basically. Symbiont. Medium or small, it's up to you. You get 30 feet of movement. You get dark vision with a range of 120 feet. The symbiote in you knows a cantrip, which you can switch on a long rest, and you can use intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for that. You can also attune to one magic item that has the symbiotic nature property without it counting towards the maximum number of magic items you can attune to, which is really, really cool. And you can choose to end your attunement to these magic items even though you can't normally. You also get resistance to poison damage and advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition. That's a lot of fun. The final creature type for people to play as is a Sahuagin, which is a humanoid. I'm pretty sure they're fiends in the monster manual. I could be wrong. Frequently am. 30 feet of speed, medium size, dark vision of 120. You have a swim speed equal to your speed, which is always nice. And as a bonus action, you can enter a blood frenzy for a minute. During this time, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that doesn't have all its hit points. You can use this as a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all uses on a long rest. You also get a natural armor of 12 plus your dex mod, and still use a shield while again benefiting from that. And you can breathe in air or underwater, but you do need to be submerged once every 4 hours to avoid suffocating. This is also really strong. The bonus action advantage on attack rolls is fantastic. Most creatures do not have all of their hit points, so very good. And dark vision of up to 120. Very, very cool. We also get some new feats. We've got some new origin feats, but a lot of these are species specific. So Rarity Expertise is elf only. You get proficiency of a skill of your choice and you gain expertise in that skill. As an origin feat, that's pretty cool. Aquatic adaptation. You can breathe underwater. If you have limited amphibiousness, you don't need to depend on water anymore. You get proficiency in athletics and you have a swim speed equal to your speed. Envoy Specialist is Warforged only. It gives you proficiency with a tool of your choice. Not only that, but you have a working model of that tool integrated into your body, which you can use as long as you have one hand free. And when making an ability check with that tool, you can add 1d4 to the check, which is fantastic. Keshtar training is proficiency in stealth, expertise in stealth. It's weird that it just says both instead of just gaining expertise. And when you take the hide action, the DC for a successful check is reduced to 10. So this is really, really good for rogues. Focused personas is a changeling one. Adopt persona. Choose a tool and define a persona associated with it. When you use your shapeshifter trait to assume the persona, you gain proficiency with the chosen tool, and when you make an ability check with the tool, you can add 1d4 to the number rolled. Expert persona, choose a skill you're proficient in and define a different persona associated with it. When you use your shapeshifter trait to assume the persona, you gain expertise in the chosen skill, and you're fluent in a language called Skin Cant, which is a language used by changeling travelers. This is really cool. It kind of forces you into having the persona style of changelings, which is super cool, and then gives you a bonus for playing along with it, which is fantastic. Thought Singer is Kalashtar only. Your telepathy gets boosted to 120 feet or 10 times your level, whichever is higher. When you use your mind link trait to grant a creature the ability to speak to you telepathically, you form a connection with them. Whenever you communicate telepathically, you can choose to send the message to all creatures you have a current mental connection to, and you can also allow those creatures to speak telepathically with one another. This lasts for as long as the mind link remains in effect. So you can be a hub basically of telepathic speech. That's super cool. And if you can speak to an ally using your mind link trait, you can also give them the help action to aid them in attacking a creature, even if you're more than 5 feet away from them, up to 120 feet or 200 feet to level 20. That's fun. And then the final one is Uldakan, which is for the Goblin, Bugbear, and Hobgoblin, but the Eberron versions. You remain fully lucid when you dream, and when you wake, you clearly remember everything that transpired. There is a spirit in the Uldakan that serves as your mentor, work with your DM to develop the identity of the spirit. Whenever you finish a long rest, there's a chance you'll receive a vision, mission, or clue about your current situation, and you get resistance to psychic damage. Again, it's a really good one for roleplay, and the resistance to psychic damage is nice too. We're then on to general feats. Irani Half-Life is for elves only. You've undergone rituals that bind you to Irian and the Undying Court. Many who undergo this process have a desiccated appearance similar to a mummy. It's up to you if you're affected in this way. Regardless of your appearance, you gain the following benefits. You can increase your intelligence or wisdom by 1. You get advantage on death saving throws, resistance to both necrotic and radiant damage. And if you cast a spell that deals necrotic damage, you can choose to have it inflict radiant damage instead. That goes really well with the radiant damage boost one from Spellfire Adept, maybe? From Forgotten Realms, right? Maybe? I think it was Forgotten Realms. But yeah, that's very cool. Changeling Metamorphosis, you get a boost to your con or dex of 1. You gain a +1 to your armor class, which is nice. And when you use your shapeshifter trait, you can choose one of the following options. You can do this as many times as you want, basically. You can sprout gills and grow webs between your fingers, so you can breathe underwater and gain a swim speed. You can get dark vision up to 60 feet. And you can grow natural weapons, which deal 1d6 damage. You can also use dex for those as well. So yeah, I like that a lot. That's really cool. Leans into the changeling power fantasy, I guess. Juggernaut plating is a warforged one. You can improve your strength or con by 1 while you remain alive. Armor you've donned can't be targeted by any effect against your will, and any critical hit against you becomes a normal hit. That's good if you're playing a fighter or a barbarian, actually. Barbarian, that feels like a really, really good fit for. I appreciate they don't normally wear armor, but it's good to know. Quarry Bond is Kalishtar. You boost your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. You choose a lineage from this and you get different stuff, basically. So you choose one of these 4 lineages, and then you get the skill associated with the lineage, and then you also get the spell associated with the lineage. But the one for the Tuscarora is Shatter, but it deals psychic damage instead of thunder damage, which is super fun. Finally, we've got Superior Shifting for the Shifter. You get an increase to your Strength, Dex, or Wisdom of 1, up to a maximum of 20. At the start of your turn, you can use your Shifting trait for free, which now lasts for 10 minutes, and you can use your Shifting trait 1 additional time, and you get 1 use back on a short rest, and all uses back on a long rest, which is super cool. Finally, for the character options, we get spells. You can make Under's Silent Sanctum is basically a 5-foot emanation of muffled sound, which is good. So you get disadvantage on wisdom checks to hear things, both in and outside of it. So there's like a barrier. And creatures inside of it have advantage on saving throws that require them to hear sound from the other side, such as the command spell. Concussive Blast is a level 1 spell, has a 60-foot range. Each creature within a 20-foot sphere centered on that point makes a Constitution saving throw, taking 2d4 damage on a failed save, and gains the deafen condition until the end of your next turn, which is cool, and you can upcast it for an extra 2d4 per level. I like the fact we've got a level 1 AoE, even if it's not that strong. It's kind of cool. Force damage is also good. I'm pretty sure there are other level 1 AoE spells, right? Ice Knife, technically. Force Blast is another cantrip. It does 1d8 of force damage, which is good. So, yeah. And then Magecraft, you channel your arcane talent through a set of tools. You basically get to add a d6 to ability checks when you take the utilize action with the tools of your choice, which is fun. And that is it for the player options. We've then got more treasures, which I'm not going over because there's a lot of items. There's a lot of cool symbiont items here. There's dragon mark specific ones, and even though I don't like the dragon mark stuff, I do like that there's specific items for them. I really like some of the symbionts. I'm going to highlight my favorite one, which is the throwing scarab. Bred by the Daleclear Valara, the bizarre symbiont burrows into the palm of its host, secreting razor-sharp chitin blades that can also be used as throwing weapons. When you tune to the scarab, it fuses with one of your hands, visible only as an iridescent chitinous growth on your palm. For every attack you make as part of the attack action on your turn, you can exude a razor-sharp chitin from the symbiont into your empty hand using it for the attack. The shard counts as a magical simple melee weapon with which you're proficient. It has the finesse, light, and thrown properties, with a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60. If it hits, it deals 1d4 piercing and 1d4 acid damage and dissolves as it hits or misses. I just really like that a lot. And then for the rest of the book, we have so very much lore. We get some history in chapter 1, which is lovely. Really, really interesting. Great timeline here as well about the houses and the wars that have gone on. And as you can see, it goes on for ages. Chapter 2 is big details on the specific species, which is really, really interesting. Fantastic if that's something you're interested in. You get rules on the faiths of Eberron, the places of Eberron, planes specific to Eberron, which I think are always good to look at even in other settings. And then the final chapter has some new stat blocks too, which is always good. Some cool Fey rulers, big fan, always. Some monsters, some merfolk, Quarry, which is sick, look at that thing, and Sahuagin, which again, just fantastic artwork. But I think that is it for me. My voice is about to give up, so probably a good time to stop. Overall, I think this is a fantastic book. I really do like the subclasses overall. The cleric subclass is a little confusing, and I'm just hoping that D&D Beyond implements all of the subclasses properly, as they hopefully will. I'm also now thinking about it, the cleric final level of the cleric subclass spells probably shouldn't be there. I think it was stolen from the Forge Adept, right? So fingers crossed that'll get sorted, but in the meantime, we'll just have to hope that that's the case. I've got nothing. Just hopefully it fixes itself. Yeah, I think this book's fantastic. There's a link in the description if you want to go get it. This isn't sponsored or anything. I just like to do it for things I'm reviewing. I bought it myself. So yeah, good book, worth it. A lot better than some of the end of the year stuff we got from Wizards First Party. And it's nice to see some Artificer subclasses. I think in a couple of weeks we're getting the Pugilist class, which I'm really excited about as, you know, a fighty boy myself. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. I hope you take care and have a good time until whenever you next choose to visit the channel. That's it. Goodbye.